So we're all good to go. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. Really happy to have Jacquie Byron joining us today. So Jacquie grew up with Wishing Chairs and Trixie Beldam. I have to say, Wishing Chairs was certainly my favourite growing up as well. Her love of reading morphed into a love of writing, leading her to study journalism while waitressing her way around various bars and tables in Melbourne and for a short stint the UK. Collecting and sharing stories has kept her busy professionally for more than 25 years, taking her to the Ogden Museum in New Orleans, to an IDP camp in Uganda, and shocking herself as much as those around her. Jacquie has been a motoring writer, a jewellery editor, a fashion publicist, and more. Today she writes for business and for pleasure, and Happy Hour is her first novel. Share my copy as well, and I can see you've got your ones in the back. So I really enjoyed reading it, have to say. Probably a good book to take you away a little bit in these times with lockdowns and everything.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yep.
But thanks for joining us. Just wondering if you want to start off by telling us a little bit about Happy Hour.
Sure. Thank you for having me, Jacquie. And hello, everyone. It's funny because really Happy Hour is actually about a woman who voluntarily self-isolates. But when I started writing this, that wasn't a thing, you know. So hopefully people aren't just so sick of it. But basically it's about a woman called Franny Calderwood, who's sort of 65 when we meet her. Her husband died in a pretty awful accident suddenly 3 years before. And her way of dealing with that grief has basically been to shut down, push away family and friends. She doesn't see anyone anymore. She's a bit of a flamboyant drinker. She has 2 dogs, whiskey and soda. She's created this quite secluded but glamorous seclusion. And then a little family moves in next door that have some issues. They sort of start bleeding into Franny's household, and she finds herself getting quite sort of involved with them. But they are very attracted by her sort of, you know, gnarly, eccentric sort of behaviour and personality, but they don't quite realise all the pain and trauma behind it. And something happens and she has to have a bit of a reckoning, really, and discover whether she wants to come back to the world or not.
And yeah, it certainly deals with some pretty serious things, but I find there's also a light-hearted side to it as well, I would say. Is
I wanted it to be a happy book, Jacquie, but
Yeah.
it just got sadder and sadder. Life is a bit sad, but yeah, hopefully there's a few laughs.
Yeah.
But there is.
And I liked Whiskey and what she did with Whiskey in the letter.
Well, you might hear from my own real whiskey at some point during this interview, so forgive me. But yeah, well, I think that what she does at the beginning of the book, I don't know if it's too much of a spoiler, but she does do something pretty nasty with dog poo.
Yeah.
And it's already proving to be polarizing, that decision to do that. But anyway, it's happened now.
And I'm just wondering how you got the idea of the book, where that first came up.
Well, I don't know whether I'm going to suspect that a lot of the viewers are women, and I don't know if they've had the same feeling, just that feeling one day of like, I just wish you'd all go away and leave me alone for a moment. And sorry. And my initial idea was about a woman that just gets in a book and gets in a car and drives away from her life. But with modern technology and whatever, it's not that easy anymore to do that. You know, like now we're going to have, you know, vaccine passports or whatever, and I don't have the skill anyway. But so I thought, how could you do that at home? And that's really, but then Franny sort of trotted in and, you know, sashayed in, and the story took off and became something quite different, really.
Okay. So did you find the characters sort of spoke for themselves and led you maybe differently than what you originally thought?
Yeah, I think so, because I think, Jacquie, it became really a lot about it. I mean, it is, people have said it's, you know, all the people that are talking about it, but the comments, you know, being that it's about grief, but really it's also got a real love story at the heart of it, because Franny and her husband Frank were so in love and had such an amazing relationship and marriage that, you know, it became, I started to think about, we're told, you know, to find a soulmate and whatever, and that is great if that ever happens to you, but what happens when they go?
Mm,
You know,
yeah, that's right.
unless you're careful. Yeah.
Mm.
also the little boy character, he was a sideline.
yeah.
He was a side note, Josh.
Yeah.
And then he just came and he was trotting around, and Franny falls in love with him because I fell in love with him, which is so bizarre because he doesn't exist. You know, I made the ideal husband and I made the ideal kid.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got quite a few people watching, which is great. So just saying to the people watching, if you've got any questions for Jacquie, please type them in comments and I can read them out. Wendy said she loved the name of the dog. And are you saying, is your dog actually called Whiskey?
So I have a Cairn Terrier called Whiskey, but she's a girl, unlike the one.
Okay.
And you know, I don't have one called Soda, but I would love a golden retriever one day.
Yeah, yeah. And Patricia's wondering if you chose the title.
I did, yeah. The title came, well, no, actually, Patricia, the working title was Drunken Nana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first time I talked to an agent about that, she was like, and I still think it would make a great Hong Kong, action film. But yeah, no, Happy Hour came along because if close readers will notice, the story starts at 6 and the book ends at 6 p.m.
Oh, okay.
And so, yeah, so, if you're a little bit anal, you might notice that. But it was really, I guess it's also got a double meaning because a lot of Franny's happy hours aren't that happy. Speaking of happy hours,
yeah. And Sharon's wondering how long it took you to write the book.
I think I started seriously in about 2018. And then I finished it last year during lockdown.
Yeah. And how hard or easy was it for you to find someone who would publish this book for you?
Do you know, I have one of those kind of dream stories now, even though, like, I'm 103 and it's my first book, so don't get excited. But it actually went amazingly well. What happened? Will I tell you the story?
Yes, of course. Yep.
Sort of me. What about you? Me too. I did something last year called the Australian Society of Authors has a thing called speed pitching, which is like speed dating, and you get 3 minutes. But because it was during lockdown, it was kind of good because I just did it in my spare room like I am now on the screen. I think I was less nervous, but I had 40,000 words at that time, and a firm was the publishing house. And they came back and said, yeah, we want to see the rest of it. And while they had it, that got me. I had 3 sort of agents that I was interested in approaching. And so I was able to go out to agents going, I've got this interest. And I think that really helps. So the process was actually pretty swift in the end.
Yeah. And had you written in manuscripts before this?
One. So I'd written one called Trouble Sleeping. It never got published, but it did get a highly commended in the Victorian Premier's Literary Awards for unpublished manuscripts.
Okay.
Which I would, if you're in Victoria, I would highly recommend entering that competition because it gets you so much interest unexpectedly, even if you're not a winner.
And is that something you think you might go back sometime and try and get it published?
It's a pretty mad idea, and also at the time everyone had the same question. They couldn't work out whether it was a rom-com or a mystery, or a crime, and they just weren't. It was like we can't see where it will sit in the shops, and it's publishing is a business. So I sort of think I have got a solution to it, but I don't know. I'm already working on my next idea, and I like that more. So
yeah. And Jill was wondering about what you have next. Are you able to tell us anything about what you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, I'm only 20,000 words into it, and promoting your first book. As someone said to me, there's one thing learning to be a writer and learning to be an author. So I've only written 500 words this week, but anyway, we'll get there. Yeah, no, I'm loving my new idea. To be honest, I'm loving the main character. She's so she's so flamboyant, and I'm enjoying designing her house, and she wears some pretty amazing outfits. So, but once again, its working title is The Fine Print, but it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's got some serious issues at the back of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of people wanting to know what sort of books you like reading yourself. Have you got a particular genre, or and also I'm wondering if maybe you've been reading something lately that you would like to recommend to us.
Well, even though, I think Happy Hour probably comes under that chick lit sort of, I actually like crime.
Mm.
I read a lot of crime. I'm actually reading Gary Disher at the moment, Consolation, which I'm really enjoying. I love Anne Cleeves, that writes Vera and Shetland and those ones. And
Yeah.
I recently read Thin Air, which was a really good one. But at the moment, I'm listening to. I'm a big audiobook girl. I'm listening to one called Dream Girl by Laura Lipman, which
Okay.
I'm fascinated by. It's got me by the short and curlies. I keep wanting to do, well, not wanting to do housework, but doing more housework because I want to
So
know what
you can
happens
do.
next. Yeah, exactly. But I did read a more, clever one recently, Golden Hill. I've written it by Frances Spufford, who is actually a historian, and
Okay.
it's a book about. It's an amazing tale set in New York in the 1740s. That does not sound exciting, but it really was quite fascinating. But anyway, yeah.
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 Thanks for those recommendations. We always love getting recommendations. Apart from Sarah Joy says, no more recommendations. I can't keep up.
No, I know. I know. I wanted to clean my bedroom the other day, and so my bedside table with the to be read pile, I wasn't able to vacuum around it anymore, and I put just that. That was my bedside table, went in this massive box, and now it's like I don't know what to do with it. But yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. It's an addiction.
I
I
know.
think the Japanese have a word for buying books that you're never going to read.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I'm going to read them. Yeah.
Maybe we'll have to live to 150, but we will read them all one day.
Yeah, well, that's where audiobooks help because you can be doing other things.
Yeah, that's what I really love about audiobooks
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah.
And Wendy said, did you have any input into the cover? She said it's both simple but very catchy.
Well, look, there was a little bit of debate on Facebook recently when someone couldn't believe that there was a dog weeing on the front cover. Why would you have that? And who would pick that up? Look, I didn't. The publishers sent me a few versions, and a rough version of this was in the very first thing. And I was like, oh my God, love it. Love it. And of course, they did really fun. Like, I think Dimmicks, if you buy it from Dimmicks, you get a lapel pin of Whiskey the dog with
Oh,
the
really? Okay.
Yeah,
That's
but they did great cutouts of the dog and whatever. But of course, because no one's in any bloody shops,
yeah, you can't.
it's all
Yeah.
been a waste. But anyway, apparently it happened.
Yeah, and talking about that, how have you gone about promoting your book when it's been locked down?
Well, look, I'm lucky because Alan and Unwin did give me a publicist for a couple of months, so they've been out there working, which is probably how they found you and bullied you into having me on. And I'm just learning about the whole Bookstagram thing. Yeah, so it's all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the book community online is so massive. So the problem I think at the moment, bloody Sally Rooney this week.
Yeah.
Any coverage anyone else was getting was like Sally Rooney. Whatever. Good luck to the young lady. But the problem is, I think there's no one going into shops. Where if you saw that cover and thought, I don't know who Jacquie Byron is.
Yeah, but it looks
Have a
intriguing.
look.
Yeah.
So you've got to find me. Which is, I think that's the bit of a bummer about it. But look, first world problems, mate. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully, maybe for Christmas, Christmas shopping, people will be out in the shops and.
Yeah, I said that to my local bookshop guy. I said, well, maybe I could come down at Christmas. He was like, I thought, to them, that's another 3 months worth of books. They're all losing their will to live, I think, a little bit. But anyway. Anyway.
And at the beginning, when I introduced you, I think we said that you're a journalist or you studied journalism. Had you always thought you would become a writer, or is that something that you'd aspired to do sometime? Or
I mean, I have spent more 25 at least years writing professionally. I was a massive course taker. I really enjoyed doing writing courses, and I would dabble, but I never actually sat down and wrote like any long form pieces. So while I made my living professionally from writing, that was all kind of journalism and corporate stuff and that sort of thing. And it was about 2014. In fact, my husband said to me, he's hanging around now with the dog, which is distracting. Said to me, you know, and someone else did too, like, you stop taking courses and start doing the writing, because that, if anyone out there is a writer, you know, that bum sticking to the, you know, sitting down and doing it. And so finally that's what I did, and I just vowed not to do any more courses until I had written a manuscript. But I love studying writing, hanging around with people that like to write, talk. It's just, you know.
Yeah. And have
People
you
like to crochet, you know.
Yeah. And have you found like you've built your own network of authors?
Yeah, I have picked up people along the years. And then a couple of years ago, when I did go back and do some study, there's a great guy here in Melbourne called Anthony Yark, and he does these very kind of professional classes, and a lot. What's her name that wrote The Dressmaker?
Oh yeah, I know who you mean, but
We know Rosemary. Anyway, like, he has published people, and a lot of that group, I'm in a writing group now with some of those people, and yeah, that, like, the guy that wrote the Nancy's, R.W. McDonald, like, he's in it. Rob.
Oh yeah,
and
Rob's great. We've had him on here as well.
Honestly, he is such a saint, and he's so generous to other writers, and he's just beautiful.
And I've got a good question from Sharon. She said, do you identify with any of the characters in your book?
The dog. No. I piss a lot. No. Look, you know, it's funny because that question about, I mean, I certainly have some traits in common with Franny, probably the gin drinking, but not to the extent that she does. And she definitely has some thoughts and that I do. But the thing that came out more interesting was the teenage girl D, who's like 15, 16.
Yeah.
I tapped back into that pissed off, angry teenager much more easily than that was a shock to me. Yeah.
I had a soft spot for her, I think. Yeah.
You can, you know, that just what that anger with your parents and the decisions they're making that impact you. I think I didn't realize how close that was to the surface. I don't need to go to therapy now, though, because I've worked through it in the book.
And is novel writing your full-time job now, or are you still doing your other?
You know, the annual income of Australian authors is $14,000. So no. But I am on 4 months sabbatical from my day job to concentrate on promoting this and to write book 2. I'm trying to get the next one finished by Christmas.
Yeah. So when you were writing it, you were working in your other job? So how did you go with managing time, like fit time into write? And
well, I don't even want to tell people because they'll roll their eyes, because I technically do 3 days a week, so I would sometimes do more if it gets busy, but I would try and keep it to that. And so do it on those days off or on the weekend. I mean, it was a hobby, so it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. So did you try and structure and like make yourself goals, or you you said it was just a hobby, so whatever?
Yeah. I'm a bit of a word count girl. That's when I feel my best. Like, I will sit down and go, right, let's say you're at 2,500 words. By the end of the day, I want you to be 3,500 words. And if I haven't done it, I feel quite. And the one thing I miss in lockdown is I really like going to work in the library. I just find something really, I don't know, and turn off the internet and just go for it. So. Yeah, there's something about, I mean, when you're at home, you can always start thinking, should put another load of washing on. Or,
there's always something else to
something.
do. Yeah. And how have you gone with like your reviews? Have you been getting many reviews through, and since your book's been...
I was in Australian Women's Weekly, that was my Oprah Vision Board moment. I've been really lucky. They've been really, really lovely and nice, and it does interest me, the different things that people pick out though and notice. Like, some people will notice little details that that meant a lot to me, but I didn't know that other people would notice. But no, they've been really good. It's do you know what makes me more nervous? When mates say that they've picked it up and they're reading it. I'm like,
yeah.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then there's also like getting praise, which, let's be honest, it does feel nice from strangers. Feels so much better because, like, my mum, honestly, I could do anything. She goes, that's the best piece of shit on paper I've ever seen, But yeah, from strangers, there's something weirdly, anyway, that probably says something about me. But anyway,
yeah.
there's the dog. Come here.
Do we get to see? Is Whiskey on any of your? Or you've?
She's on all my social media.
Yeah.
I bought her a new bed this weekend because my husband said she deserves a present for all the work she's been doing for me. She's very photogenic. Come here.
Would love to see Whiskey.
We might be able to. I'm seeing if my assistant will be able to assist me. Anyway, sorry, Jackie.
No, that's...
Here we go. Oh, thank you, Alex.
Oh.
Hi, Whiskey.
Oh, very cute. Hello, Whiskey.
Yeah. She's got, like me, we both got our lockdown haircuts, so we both need a groom.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Still looking very good, though.
Her or me?
Oh, both of you, of course. Sharon said some authors have a few little phrases or words they use in all their writing. Is that something that you have?
I didn't notice, Sharon, until the editor came along, and she was like, for one thing, there was like 5 chignons in it, the hairstyle. I wasn't quite sure what they are, and I just was chucking them in. And eye rolling.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was because I'm actually a bit of an eye roller. Yeah, but no, I don't know. You'll have to read and find out.
Yeah. And Julie said she's one of your mates, and
okay.
and she can say she loves Happy Hour, and she's so proud of you.
Oh, thanks, Jules. I think she's listening to the audiobook, actually.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah. And did you, with the audiobook, could you choose who read it, or?
Do you know, Julie, that was I said from the beginning, because, when you're new into this game, you're not going to be pushy or whatever. Like, I'm not, Donna Tartt or whatever, but I just said I'm just going to be quite naggy about the audiobook because I am a massive audiobook fan.
Yeah. And I know myself, I don't know if the person doesn't do it for you, reading it, then I'll stop listening to it.
Yeah. So I normally, I use Audible, and I will always listen to the sample. And if it's a book because I don't know about you, I tend to read more plot-driven stuff on audiobook, and if it's going to be beautiful language or whatever, I will keep that for the actual physical book. But with audiobooks, if I really want the book and the voice puts me off, I'll just go and buy the actual or get it from the library. So there was a lot of lovely audition tapes sent to me, and some of them because I didn't realise that some readers actually follow the narrators, like they will.
Oh yes, yeah.
It was a new thing to me.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and because I was a new author, there was like, look, this narrator actually already has her own following, and I was like, all due respect, it's not. And part of the thing was they were sounding a bit old ladyish, and Franny is cool.
Yeah,
like she's 65, but she's who did I see? Chrissy Hines from The Pretenders just turned 70. Now she's cool, like you're not going to call her elderly to her face, and Franny's had a really amazing life, and I just really wanted someone that brought that. And so I did actually put them through the hoops a little bit.
Yeah. Oh well, that's good that you had a choice. You could hear them and had a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, when you were writing, do you have someone you test your book out on?
No, I'm a bit weird like that. I'm a solitary. I did workshops and stuff in the writing class that I did, but no, I tend to just keep it to myself.
And Belinda wonders, when you start writing, do you know how your book will finish?
You know, writers, they talk about being plotters and pantsers, like those that go by the seat. I'm a plotter. So,
Yeah.
I mean, once you start, I don't think anyone knows exactly what's going to happen because you start, but I do have a pretty strict plan. It's like, to me, a roadmap. I couldn't do it without it. So I sort of know where I'm going and, which notes I need to hit. And then if great things happen as I go along that take me off on tangents, that's fine. But yeah, I sort of, and also I think because I was a bit burned with the first manuscript, because I never knew how that was going to end, and it did come back and bite me on the ass. And I think that's why I'm not hanging on to it being published, because you can see me tied up in a neat bow at the end.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
with this, I knew where she was going to end.
Yeah.
I didn't know quite how she was going to get there, but yeah.
And going back to the audio, Sharon said that she reads all the audio samples first and she likes the voice to match the storyline.
Yeah. I know, it makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm wondering, what do you like doing when you're not working and writing?
Well, you'll be surprised, reading. And I love podcasts, and I love to take the dog down the beach and listen to something, but in normal life, if we'll ever have that again, my husband and I are quite big entertainers, and I didn't realise how much I missed it, because sometimes you get the stick of it, you think, oh, I've got to clean the bathroom again, but I'm actually really quite missing it now, because I've got really good girlfriends like Jules, and yeah, I don't know, just nothing amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not a very fascinating person.
And what about research for your books? Do you have to do much research?
Well, it was a bit of a trap with this one, because I did find myself looking up different boozers, buying them, drinking them. Never catch. So I made the joke the other day, my new book, I need to have someone that's really obsessed with fitness so I can be investigating that shit. Because the last book had a real, it wasn't a day spa, it was actually a insomnia clinic, but they did have a lot of these treatments, and I really did a lot of research on that. And it's both a beautiful part of the job and a real trap, because you can go down such rabbit holes, and all of a sudden, like there's one little scene where she goes to a Spanish film festival and then comes home and starts cooking all this, Spanish food and whatever. Oh my God, I had so much fun. And then it was like, can you stop? You're not writing about Spain. Come back and get back into happy hour.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, not it's not like I'm writing about, molecular science or what I can't even say it. How could I write about it? But yeah.
Yeah. And could you tell us what you hope readers will love about your book?
Ooh, does that mean the cat's back?
No.
Oh, sorry. I hope they love Franny. I hope they understand her and feel, because she is a bit spiky, and people talk about unlikable characters and whatever, and she's not unlikable. I don't think she's unlikable, but I think that the one thing for me is that fascinates me about humans is our ability to cope with grief and mask it, and that everyone is walking around with these terrible sadnesses within them. And I just hope it makes everyone just look twice again at those people around them, and give them a break.
Yeah. And could you tell us what you think for you makes a good story?
I do really like world building. Like, if you can take me into a whole different sort of world where I really see it. And it was important to you asked about reviews earlier, like, the people that have said, oh, they really see Franny's house and they love the life that she lives. That means a lot to me, because I think that's why I like Anne Cleves and the Shetland books and whatever. Like, she creates such a world.
Yeah.
So I think that makes a good, and just things that surprise me. And I'm a bit of a dialogue nut. I like the dialogue.
Yeah.
So everything demanding.
Well, thanks so much for chatting to me tonight. It's been great talking to you. Just wondering if you want to tell people how they can keep up with what's happening with you and maybe see whiskey.
with whiskey. Instagram, it's just Jacquie Byron on Instagram. I've got a website where there's some bits and pieces, including some book club questions, which is just JacquieByron.com. BYRON, because there's already been 3 different interviews that have misspelt it.
Oh, really?
Byron, it's like Shakespeare. It's a good writing name. And I'm on Twitter, but I'm not very good at Twitter. It's just too much for me.
Yeah.
And I've got an author Facebook page, which is Jacquie Byron Author. So it's pretty easy to find me.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. And I hope everyone goes out and checks out Happy Hour.
Thank you, Jacquie.
Thanks.
I really appreciate it.
And thanks for everyone who joined in and the great questions.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys.
Bye,
And
everybody.
Bye-bye.
You wanna come up with me just?
Yeah.